Welcome back to the 10-8 Fightcast. Dylan and Trevor here. We're going to be talking about Conflict 50. We're going to talk about a little bit of UFC stuff, but mainly talking about the weekend that we had in Charelston.
You know what? This UFC card, it's just like taxes. Don't ask me about it.
Yeah, the upcoming one for sure.
I really didn't watch that much of it. I was too wiped out from.
That's
conflict.
true.
Yeah,
that's true. And we were having a great time after.
Actually, yeah.
And we'll get into that a little bit. But we basically had a fantastic weekend calling fights in Charleston. Talia, your girlfriend, got to go with us for the first time on a trip like that.
Yeah. She saw our little bromance bro dates, and she was like, "Oh, you guys are like a couple." And it's like, I'm upset that you're here. No, I loved having her here, but no, she is kind of like hanging out with like a dude. So like, she's not like a girly girl. Like she was great. She's kind of like one of us.
Definitely, and she's a fighter too, so she understands that game, and she got to sit cage side with us, which was really fun, but had some good food, had some good times, and had a great card at
I found one of the most normal weekends we've ever had in like 2 years. Weird. Yeah,
definitely. Felt like the last time we were there.
Yeah.
The last time we were there was also a great night.
But we really enjoyed this time. I think we took our time with it this time. It was good.
Yeah, we had a lot more time down there.
Yeah.
We had a lot more time to do what we wanted to do, so definitely a good night of fights. All action.
Man,
all action there.
It was on. The great job to Jared Williams, because that way that he put more people in there this time.
Yep.
It made a bigger difference. Like, we thought there's light energy in there last time, but it was like it's because the whole Charleston squad was there. There was a big Charleston Muay Thai. There's presence there. Like, there's a big showing from this time, but still just a big group of people that wanted to see fights. Yeah. Like, every fight had noise to it.
Really
and I tell people, like, that's a special thing about fights like this. Like, why Conflict is so awesome live. Like, so, hey, they sell out now. Like, it's proven they sell out. So you have to get your tickets. Because it's something that you can't miss out, man. It's unique.
Especially if they plan on staying in that venue. I know they want to find something a little bit bigger, but that venue's got its own energy to it also.
It does.
It's got a nice feel to it, too. It feels like one of those big fight venues, but without the big fight.
And we have the best seats in the house as always, and we have the VIP tables behind us, so we're in the audience.
They always tend to be the rowdiest bunch.
Yeah, and it's like we get to be in the audience while commentating, and it's a blast.
The VIPs are always the rowdiest because they get free drinks, and they spent so much money to be there. They're like, we're gonna enjoy it. Yeah. So it's always fun when they're positioned close to them.
They have a blast.
Because they always have a good time. Our predictions about the card, especially when it comes to full rules Muay Thai bouts, was absolutely
split decision.
correct.
I was like, man, split decision, right?
I meant in terms of how much they bring to the show in terms of entertainment and really getting the card kicked off with Jonathan Taylor and Fernando Hernandez from Charelston Muay Thai. It put everybody in the right mindset, because that was a brutal back and forth Muay Thai fight.
Yeah, that was, and Fernando's
clinch,
just patience in the clinch, and just clinching it's very complicated, but a lot of people overcomplicate it. Yeah, and the guys at Charelston Muay Thai do not overcomplicate the clinch. It's very to the point. Like, they use as much as a defense as it is an offense, and that was the big interrupting case in this fight, because the frames were there. The elbow and knee counters were there every time.
Yeah, he kept sneaking that elbow.
Yeah, it was very slick elbows.
And the knees to the body were also adding up.
Oh, as the fight went on. It was also the base of his punches. That was a big difference. Like, we saw, it says Jonathan Taylor was the other guy, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I loved his striking, by the way. I did. Like, I really enjoyed it.
He was the classic MMA fighter.
It was the classic MMA fighter against a Muay Thai fighter. And however, I liked what that kid was doing. I thought he had beautiful striking. He did a great job, switching stances, but it was a Muay Thai fight.
Yeah.
And Fernando, and this is why I tell people, switching stances is for MMA. Mm-hmm. Switching stances in Muay Thai is for, recovering from a bad punch. If you miss a kick, touching down to southpaw, hitting one shot back to home, but not switch hitting like Jonathan was doing. Fernando, as you saw, was very settled on his punches. And you saw the difference. When his punches landed, Jonathan was like, okay.
Oh, yeah, especially that cross.
That cross was on.
It was
so solid, yeah. And Jonathan Taylor, he would get hit by 2 or 3, and he was like, okay, wait, what?
And he took a few right across the forehead.
Yeah, right across the forehead. And it was it was freezing him in time. And he was getting back in there. Tough kid, very tough kid. But you can tell, there's a difference. He felt the difference on those settled down, pure shots, man. It's a Muay Thai guy sometimes get into a fight with a boxer. Like, okay, wait, hold up now. What?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which one of y'all punched me?
Yeah.
But yeah, it goes the way of Charelston Muay Thai, getting them kicked off very nicely. On this card, they had 4 fighters total. Then we went over to the MMA side of things, Joshua Alexander versus David Madden, and you had a little mix-up with your notes.
I did a rookie mistake, and you pointed that out where it's like I didn't even realize I had written down the fighter for blue and red on the cards. Like where we were sitting with a cage, it was red, blue. On my notes, it was blue, red, or like backwards. Anyways, and I'm just a dunce at that. You know, that was a rookie mistake. I'm a jabroni. Just throw the goo at me.
It happens. But we got him straightened out.
I got straightened out.
Joshua Alexander was the extremely buff kid.
What weight?
135.
That was a big 35er in there.
Big 35er. Yeah. Great tattoos too. Had some good ink. And scored the knockout of the night. He absolutely flatlined that kid.
Yes.
That was a brutal knockout. Definitely the cleanest by far. The cleanest of the night by far. And
that was, I mean, there was one more stoppage later on, but like, as far as downright KO. Yeah. That was it for the night.
And he measured him too. He kept finding that punch over and over again. And then he just found it with all the mustard in the world on that hot dog and just slammed it.
Like, what I liked is that he went to the same shot, just a different way each time.
Exactly, yes.
You know, he didn't throw the same jab overhand like it landed the first time. He would go, okay, counter step back, overhand, okay, cool, close space down, level change, feint, overhand. And he mixed up how he found the same shot, and I went, okay, that was cool. And even I said, I was like, man, that's now a school, like, you got to keep your eyes on. Like, if it was the Gwinnett Combat Club or
Savannah Combat
Club out of somewhere
Stephen Bass
out of Georgia, right?
Yes, out of Savannah.
And so that was a school I wasn't familiar with, but I saw that kid fight like that, and I went, I got to be familiar with that school now. Like, I like what that kid did in that fight.
Cameron Reynolds picks up the...
And enjoy the gloves, bud.
Oh, the gloves are coming. We're going to ship those out to you tomorrow. Chance Muay Thai gloves. We're going to have some 10-8 Fight Club, 10-8 Fightcast gloves coming out soon. We're working on the design now. I'm really excited about giving those out because they will be exclusive. You will only have one of these if you are a knockout of the night 10-8 Fightcast winner. So it'll be one of a kind, but you know, as it goes on, it'll be 2 of a kind, 3 of a kind. It'll be a very exclusive club. Anyway... Cameron Reynolds, one of the most yoked 160-pound men you're ever going to see in your life. Holy crap! He looked like Bane.
When he walked in the cage, I just went, "Okay, someone put on some weight overnight." Like,
dude, I saw his weigh-in picture.
I saw the weigh-in picture of this kid, and I went, "Okay, that's a lightweight." And I saw this person get in the cage, and I went, "Okay, what happened?"
He looked like Bane, dude. He was
was unreal, and he kept up the gas tank all night.
He looked like he could go 3 more
Not
rounds.
A problem. Very slick grappler. And he fought someone, and we were talking about, you know what, he must have a wealth of experience in grappling because he fought a traveled Muay Thai fighter.
Yes.
You know, and it was a classic striker versus grappler. And sometimes you'll see the grappler, especially in these fights, in their debut, you sometimes see him like putts out. Like, because the striking is that kind of tightness
until you get to the grappling,
right? And then sometimes they can still burn themselves out by doing too much on the ground. Like, but his measure and control, I was like, wow, he must have quite the experience from what he was doing. That composure he kept. I mean, even on the feet, he threw confidently on the feet.
He definitely.
He did not seem like it was his debut.
He hit his shots very well. He was
out of the same team as Jonathan Taylor was. He's out of the SAS team, I believe, right?
Spartan Academy, yep.
Yep, the Spartan Academy with Gibson Saw. You know, and we're like, that's a credit to Gibson Saw's coaching. Yeah. And if you guys know anything about jiu-jitsu, you know who Gibson is. Like, he's a legend from Brazil. And they've got some good striking coming to that place, too. So that means, like, you know, they were like, hey, you're going to be a grappler in this fight. Just be patient on the feet. They didn't make the striking sometimes, like, a jiu-jitsu coach might make striking a bit more worse than it is. You follow me? Yeah,
absolutely.
Where, you know, they have a striking coach who's probably just like, yeah, dude, you're a grappler. Grapple. Like,
right,
do this.
Play your strength.
And it makes a big difference. Yeah, and it was very, very intelligent fight.
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to take a guy like Cameron Reynolds and turn him into a world-class striker overnight, but what you can do is give him good enough striking to disguise.
You just need to, like, that punch might not have any power, but it's going to have some push.
Right.
And you're going to push someone onto their heels and just snatch a leg.
Snatch him up. Yeah, that's exactly what he was doing. I mean, I thought that he was very intelligent with how he mixed in the level change in the because it was no mystery, especially after that first round where Malik was just on bottom the entire time. There's no mystery in the second round about what Cameron was going to do when he goes out there. So now he has to be a little bit more tricky than he was before, so he doesn't get kicked or teeped or kneed.
Yeah.
And he did a very, very good job, especially in the third round where Malik was very obviously tired. He actually entertained a lot more stand-up until we went to the ground in the third round as well.
He let Malik get like a little comfortable for one punch.
Exactly.
And like he would throw, like Cameron knew he'd throw one punch. Malik was like, "There's my opening," and he was shooting. We thought he'd be striking. But I'd like to see Malik back in there, man. When you see his body, you're like, man, he's got an awkward frame on him, dude. He looks like
tough matchup.
He's got like this itty bitty frame with these daddy long leg arms and legs.
Is he a 55er normally then?
I believe so.
Yeah,
he looks like he doesn't look like he'd be a welterweight.
Yeah, it definitely looks like Cam would be closer to that side.
Yeah. Cam looks like he could be a welterweight.
I actually don't know if this is the card from before the show started, and I think that when the show started, it actually did switch up kind of the bout order.
Yeah.
So I don't have the exact bout order, but we're definitely going to at least talk about all the important fights, I think.
Yeah.
So, I mean, speaking of important fights, Logan York taking on Josh Collins out of the Icebox / Josh Collins MMA.
Yeah, I was glad to see Josh pick up the win.
What a fun fight.
Yeah, that was one of those where, you know what, it doesn't matter. Like,
I really
fights like this it's kind of like pizza. It's not bad. It's not the best.
I remember when I first got into this game, I read a book called The Professor in the Cage. It was like why men fight and why people love to watch.
Right.
And it's like, there's this thing he says in there about like how, you know, people have always been fascinated by finding out who the best is, you know, like Muhammad Ali, etc. talked about that. But he's like, but at the same time, you'll watch two guys fight that have no idea what they're doing in the parking lot of a 7-Eleven.
Oh yeah.
If you knew it was going to happen ahead of time, you'd be there.
Oh yeah.
And it's an instinctual thing. It's tied to our primal DNA, and this was one of those fights where I was feeling that energy for sure. I was feeling that energy.
Logan York for the fans
came out swinging.
Yeah. He was 1-0 in MMA. And taking on someone that has... I can't believe they sanctioned that fight with the record discrepancy of the two.
1-3 KB for Josh Collins, but a 4-3 MMA record.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely a discrepancy in experience both in and out of the cage. And Logan York
is young.
Came out throwing bombs. From Japan.
He was trying to take his daughter to prom, and Josh Collins said no.
Exactly. Not. I mean, I think that, you know, it was one of those things where he was just like, I've got to go in there and knock him out quick. And he wasn't really, you know, concerned with what the fight would look like if he could knock him out quick.
And Josh Collins, man, he showed that he had some... He just kept his guard up, and he just stayed behind, and he was like, okay, and he would circle off and just let Logan York kind of punch himself out that first round, and he came back with those big old man uppercuts and just found his home with it over and
turning
over
the back, Logan turning the back over and over again, and I was like, man, they are gonna
Logan York was getting hit so hard his head was like snapping up and turning around, and it was just such a slobber knocker, and he did get dropped in the first round.
Yes.
At the end of the first round, and then it made it into the second, and it was over a little bit after that.
Yeah, Josh was just pursuing him.
Yeah, in the second round, he just came out
ripping to the body too, and trying to turn your head and hide your head and all this other crap is just like a good sign that you're probably done. And I think that I think it was Jimmy in there, or maybe it was the young guy. I can't remember.
I think it was Jimmy in there.
I think it was Jimmy, but the ref was like super on it. I remember that. As soon as Josh went down for that big punch in the second, Jimmy was counting before he even hit the ground.
Yeah.
And he beat the count, and Jimmy still called the fight.
New York.
I'm talking about the ref. Okay.
No,
did I say Josh?
You said Josh went down. Yeah. I was like, did he go down? Oh, no. Yeah,
as soon as Logan went down, Jimmy was already counting beforehand. And
Jimmy or was Justin Brown?
Like, it might have been
Justin Brown. I think it was Justin Brown, and that's why he made that, because Justin Brown, he travels the world for ONE FC, and
he is definitely one of the most experienced refs we've seen and worked with for sure. A lot of ONE FC fights under his belt, and that's one of the
premier. He came up through South Carolina just like Blake Grice and Jimmy Neely. Like the South Carolina scene is very active.
Yeah, certainly, and. I think that was a good call, even though that Logan technically beat the count. He was not right on the field. I think in boxing it's a lot more common to do that than it is in kickboxing or Muay Thai, but a good stoppage.
People would be surprised how quick they are to call some standing 8 counts in amateur boxing.
Yes.
It's not like you would see in the high level. In amateur boxing, you get an 8 count pretty quick in amateur boxing. Muay Thai kickboxing is a little bit of a rougher 8 count because you're getting kicks sometimes and stuff.
Well, also in boxing, I find that
But USA boxing can be really quick to call it.
At amateur, especially, it's more likely to go to a decision than it is one guy just being a super stud and KOing the guy.
Yeah, you get way more decisions.
Especially in those smaller, beginning stages of your boxing career. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those things where it's you get a little less leeway, because if you're getting tore up bad enough to have a standing 8 count, you're already an outlier, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Not every guy out there is Michael Williams Jr. or Donnie on the local scene or whatever, and they just are going to call it. Especially when it comes to amateur boxing, but it's also the case with amateur MMA. I've talked to Donnie Jessup and Wayne Spinola. They're all these guys aren't making any money.
Yeah.
They're paying money to be here most of the time, so it's
you'll see they let the guys with more experience do a bit more.
Exactly.
If you don't have as much experience, you better be having your ass covered. Is how.
Yeah, and I feel that's exactly what we saw here in this fight. A guy making his debut in kickboxing, but with 1-0 in MMA. They were on him from the jump, and he fought like he had something to prove.
He did,
and he proved something. He's tough. He took some big shots.
I hope he's icing his head down still. Jesus.
I hope he's fine. I hope he's good. If I got hit like that by Josh Collins, my only method of communication would be finger painting.
Yeah, I've been there.
And then we had our fight of the night winner, and Jared's fight of the night winner too for the promotion. Wendy Anunson versus Amy Peduto in a full rules Muay Thai clash.
What a fight.
And it was a great fight.
I felt exhausted after that fight.
It was a great fight. And you were saying that you were talking to Wendy earlier and her legs still chewed up.
Still chewed up. And she said that she appreciated, she said that she enjoyed hearing the commentary back. She said we made it sound fun.
It was fun. I don't know.
I had a blast watching that fight.
We were just calling it like we saw it, and we were having a blast.
She said that she felt amped up after the fight. I was I hope you should both feel amped up.
Yeah,
I talked to Jeff Grady, and even Jeff Grady was man, what a fight. And I was dude, what a fight.
Great fight.
Yeah.
And one thing I will say is that Wendy was shredded. Mm-hmm. Came in great shape for this one. And only really after all of those leg kicks and body shots,
she slowed down.
She slowed down.
Yeah, Amy really took control in that third. But man, the first 2 rounds was just all action.
And it was because, honestly, I think that the investments that Amy made in the first round and the second round, she did what she had to do in the second round. She lost the first round, but she did what she had to do to invest in the third round in the second round. If that makes sense.
Yes.
She laid on her in the clinch, she put more body shots in, and she slammed home leg kicks.
She showed the experience in the kickboxing of knowing that she was going to have to once she saw the first exchange from Wendy land, she was I got to take this to deep waters.
And when your strategy is when that is your strategy, it can be scary and it can be risky to do that, because we were even.
Well, I don't know if that was her strategy or not. I think she they were expecting more of a fight in the clinch. But Wendy's boxing made it a hard.
I just mean when that's how it plays out. When that's how it plays out, it can be risky, because we were even split in the booth on who won that round.
Yeah,
and the judge can only. And the judges took forever to add up.
They did. I was looking over,
and I was
Justin, I remember talking to Jimmy Neely was reffing that. Was Jimmy reffing that?
I think so.
I think Justin Brown was
I think Desiree Neely was the judge.
Justin was
sitting.
Not, but I remember I talked to Justin. I was I wouldn't want to judge that fight. And he was I don't blame you. And Jimmy Neely was oh my god, that was chaos. And I was Man, like I wish I could have watched it from a judge's standpoint to watch it. I watched it from a fan standpoint, and I had a blast watching it. You know, I saw like the switch kicks landing. I saw the low kicks landing. Like the fight just seemed so goddamn dead even in those first 2 rounds.
That second round,
it was such a tight round. Like where you were saying that you saw some elbows, like I didn't quite see. I think you were looking at the monitor, and I was looking from like the back, and I saw knees from both sides land. I think it might have come down like 1 or 2 elbows I might not have seen from where I was sitting in that second round.
Same elbows that
Fernando was landing.
Her teammate landed.
Yeah, same. Like Charelston Muay Thai.
What's that called? When you elbow in close vertically? I mean...
Oh, I just called it tight in elbow.
Tight in elbow.
Yeah. Like, you know, I had a student calls like, oh, it's like an elbow jab. And I'm like, technically, yeah. But it's like, you know, like your arm is just tight and you can just jam it in. And they both did the same job of finding the single collar. Like, I go deep with a single collar tie, but it's just like controlling the inside of the collarbone and the neck with one frame. Yeah. And the other free arm, I call it putting in a T-Rex, you keep control and you can just bump and you kind of want to try and catch your own arm behind that control you have, and it's slick and it's solid and it was there every time. But Wendy did a good job of like, and we called it, I think we both went, oh, on like this, she like dove in and put it on the clinch, and I said like she did a good job of like,
I was blown away.
She did a great job of, like I said, she was using like the right type of MMA wall work to help shut down a lot of Danny's.
I'll tell you right now,
like they like she made it so even, and I feel like they weren't preparing to be like that even in that part of the fight. Even like the kick game of like Wendy's switch kick. Like Jeff was very complimentary of that switch kick that Wendy had. He was like, I did not see that coming. And I was like, I haven't seen a switch kick like that outside of like high level Muay Thai fights. And he's like, I know, bro. Like there was a lot of things that surprised everybody in that
stuff
fight.
On display. Yeah. And also Amy Peduto finally getting the nod. And we said that you said that she was a fighter who, when she does get in situations like that where the fight is close, the decision often doesn't go her way. She gets the nod here.
Yeah,
I think it's pretty clear that she won the third round. Everything was about that second round. The story of that second round. That was one of the only fights I've actually had a chance to rewatch in full. I skipped around and looked at some of the fights again, but the one fight I really wanted to watch all the way through uninterrupted, headphones on, in my room in the darkness, with cinnamon dulce de leche crunch in my hands. Was this fight, and I think what it comes down to, and I told Amy the same thing because she had DM'd me on Instagram, but I said that I feel like at the end of the day, she did a better job scoring for Muay Thai in the second round.
Yes,
and we're talking about scoring the fight as a Muay Thai bout. That was the difference maker in the second round.
Yeah, and I think it was just like I didn't see some with the back that was turned to me. Like I was watching up.
Yeah,
I was looking up, and you were looking at the monitor, I believe, during the fight. And you were seeing
the first 2 shows that I did with Fight For It, the monitor situation was a little iffy, and I had to do commentary in the ring. We had a monitor for the cage, but in the ring, because of the way it was set up at the time, there weren't towers, I guess, where we could look down in. But I remember I had to watch and commentate just with my view from the cage side, and I learned that depth perception is a very weird thing.
Yeah,
as you know, as a striking coach, it can vary on one person. You'll see somebody and you're like, this guy's got a Hawkeye on him, you know, like, and then the next guy that comes along, he's an athlete and all this other stuff, but his depth perception sucks.
Yeah.
And, he can't dodge a punch or send one in. When fighters are circling constantly and the angle's changing constantly and there's lighting and all these other factors that go into it, it's very easy to see something and swear that you saw it a certain way and then realize after the fact that that's not how it went down or that you missed something. More commonly for me,
one thing I've noticed is that from my time spent as a judge, because I've judged a fuck ton of fights.
And they don't ever have a monitor at these shows.
And we don't, but it's a different type of attention. And where with me is like, I was just enjoying it being it's funny, like there is very much like fight fan Trevor is very much removed from Judge Trevor. And that's one thing I've noticed where like when I'm Judge Trevor, like there's things I'll point out that even like coaches will be like, fuck, I didn't see that. And I'm like, I'm glued in. And like where you sit, like it's a very unobstructed view, like as a judge, and like it's a different type of focus on those fights.
Right.
That I don't have on this, where I'm just seeing it's like it's a different mentality to judge a fight than it is to, oh boy, let's see a fight. Like,
yes.
and so I'm seeing, like, I'm usually going with, like, the audience a lot of times, where when I judge, I don't hear the audience. I don't hear, like, I might hear a coach if I hear like panic, if they can tell the fighter's hurt, and I'm not like when I have the headphones on, like I'm not hearing certain things. Like there's a lot of differences of like my attention to a fight when I'm judging and when I'm like a fight fan.
It's also one of those things.
I'll go back and rewatch fights and be like, yeah, it looks different from this angle of like the TV. Like,
and it's also one of those things where when you're in that mode, you're completely, like you said, you're locked in on the fight, you're glued in on the fight, and you can look at it in a way that's like more objective, but also more technically savvy. Whereas when we're commentating, trying to be in that mode while also commentating would be like trying to have a full conversation while music just blasts in your head.
So hard.
Headphones blaring, noise canceling. It would just be so hard, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we get stuff wrong. I told Amy the same thing on Instagram. I was like, we get stuff wrong all the time. I get rounds and fights wrong all the time. There's a lot of fighters that'll tell you that now. Like when I first started, I used to get really shocked when they would get upset, but now I realize that it's because they see things from a different perception and a different point of view than I do. So I don't even really hold it against them anymore. But
this is one of those fights I'm glad I got to enjoy it as a fan and not a judge.
Yes.
It was one of those
And we
fights
were big fans of this fight. We were talking about this fight really all night, and we couldn't stop talking about it at Mac's place after Amy was there, and really we were kind of mostly just hanging out with people from Charelston Muay Thai.
Yeah.
Jared was also there, and we just were very complimentary. Jeff was very complimentary of Wendy, and it was just a very everybody seemed to come out of this fight higher opinions of each other,
Yes.
And after what went down at the last show with the last minute bailout and having to go up and wait, and there was this kind of like
drama.
There was kind of this like bitterness feeling in the fight last time, whereas I feel like in this fight all that was resolved.
Yeah.
And both girls are better for it, and people think more highly of them as fighters because of it.
Yes,
so
100%.
Full rules Muay Thai.
And Wendy
never
now has
fails,
a match coming
baby.
up. She has a match coming against Tara LaRosa.
In combat jiu-jitsu. I saw a poster for that this morning. I was like,
what a savage, bro.
How is she even training right now?
That's like a couple weeks away, and that pops up, and I'm just like...
And her leg looks like hamburger meat.
And she's going to try and come down like this Saturday and do some boxing with Andy Wynn for her BKFC, and I'm like, you're a savage, bro.
Dude, seriously. Well, when you're about it, that was the theme of the weekend.
It's about it.
When you're about it, you're about it, and you'll do anything to chase it. And I think that Wendy definitely proved that she's about it in this fight.
Yeah.
Dude, that level change to the clinch, man, there are some very high-level MMA women that would have gotten taken down there. I'll tell you that right now. That was so fast.
Yes.
It
and it surprised Amy. Amy was like, "What are you doing? Like is that a shot?" But like
we were all. I was like, God damn!
Yeah.
Oh man, and she looked in that moment a lot like her teammate Cameron Sandoval, who had a phenomenal fight.
I told you about that kid. I was like, "This is someone to keep an eye on." And that kid he fought just wasn't ready for like that patience, that precision, and that explosion that Cameron had. Like. It's wild to see someone be that far ahead in a fight from the get-go.
Yes, it looked like a squash match in the WWE, when they used to send, like, Johnny Rocket out there versus The Undertaker. And, it was, we were looking at him and being like, damn, this is a guy with pro-level athleticism and speed and timing, technique, and he's here collecting an amateur belt. Maybe he gets another one, maybe he defends this one, and then it's time to fucking go, because, dude, you're in North Carolina now. It's going to be a lot easier for you to get established regionally before you go up north or before you go down south to Miami or wherever you're going to go to that next level.
And that fight team stays busy.
But and they proved themselves at this show, man. Oh, yeah. They were out for blood.
But they've been since they've moved here and setting up shop, they've been competing while building out a gym. They've really just now, I think, had their grand opening of Battleborn. But in those 3 months of building out, they've been competing every weekend still, just about. It's insane.
I told my boy was getting ready to go train at Octagon, and I was like, you might want to wait before committing to this spot Battleborn was going to go to High Point. Oh. So I was like, stop by when they open, just keep an eye on them, and when they open, go by.
They're open for classes now. Yeah. We've gone out there, we've made some field trips, and they're like it's a great group to work with, man. We get along well. I'm glad.
Yeah, for sure, because it gives us a great insight into stuff like this, because we were very familiar because of you with both of these fighters, and everything you said about them kind of paid off and was true. especially when it comes to Kenner Sandoval. I can't wait to see this kid fight.
Yeah, that kid's, Like, I got to work with him in the gym, and I just went, oh, you got it.
You were saying that he reminded you a lot of Evan Arredondo, and I couldn't agree more. After the fight, I was like, okay, I see where
see what I mean? Yeah.
See where that comparison's coming from. Then, of course, we had Lewis Glover taking on Hunter Spahar for the 170-pound title. Hunter defending that title that he picked up at Conflict.
2 giant 49. Featherweights.
2 big boys for 170. They're 170.
Oh, I think you said featherweight. I was like, I'm sorry. I was like, wait, those are I think you said featherweight. I'm sorry.
They're still tall for.
But they are still big.
Especially Lewis. Especially Lewis. He's long and is super long.
Yeah,
super tall guy.
This fight turned out to be like the opposite of what we called, I feel. Like where he's saying like Lou's gonna come out and try to box. But he came out trying to shoot the whole time, and I was like, well, I thought he was
I was a little confused by that. That was kind of baffling to me. It was one of the first of a few baffling moments, of the night. We'll get to those in a little bit. But yeah, I could not believe what I was seeing before thine eyes, as I said on commentary. Hunter's obviously a very good wrestler. So, I mean, to come out and have a wrestling heavy strategy against him, you got to have some cojones. You got to have some iron nuts.
I couldn't quite understand that he wanted to.
I mean, I've watched some Lewis Glover fights. They're not all on YouTube. Not all 6 of his fights before this were on YouTube, but I obviously saw the Conflict 49 fight, and I saw a few fights before that. I've never really seen him go out there and just look to shoot the entire time.
Yeah, I haven't either. That was not what we expected at all.
Yeah.
And he gave Hunter control of that fight. Like, Lewis would try to lead the dance.
Well, he was doing okay when he was fresh.
Yeah.
He was doing okay in the wrestling. He was holding Spahar against the cage while he was fresh. But I've said it time and time again, when you're wrestling a wrestler and you're both tired, the advantage is heavily in his favor because wrestlers are so used to being tired while wrestling.
Yes.
That's the whole stratagem that a lot of wrestling coaches use in that wrestling room for young kids, for middle school and high school age.
Just do it tired.
Just do it tired because you're going to get tired of the tournament. You're going to be out there all day. You might have 3 or 4 matches, 5 matches. So we need to learn how to do this tired. And I know a lot of jiu-jitsu coaches also do the same thing, but I think that in wrestling, there's something about the mindset of going to failure that is regarded higher.
Yeah.
So they have that's where that grit comes in, And Hunter Spahar, no stranger to that game, I felt like, as we watched this fight go on and on. He did not get really tired. He just got
more and more comfortable as the fight went on. He really did.
Exactly.
Yeah, he was kind of in cruise control that last round.
Especially in that last round. But, I mean, I'm interested to see what this kid does because now at this point he's had 9 amateur fights. So it's like, that was his ninth one. 7-2 as an AMI with most of his wins coming from submission decision. A lot of good wrestling on display.
He's defended the belt.
It's the meta. His style is the most popular style right now.
1 or 2 more, he'll probably go pro.
Yep. Lewis Glover, I'm sure he'll stick around. He's a good fighter. There's a reason he got this title shot. He made good work of Seth Prince, who's also a very grappling, heavy, wrestling, heavy opponent. I don't know why we didn't see that Lewis Glover again, but whatever. I mean, I hope we do because that was, a fun fight. He's a fun fighter. I don't mean to discredit him at all by saying he came out with a bad strategy or anything. I just think that there's not really a planet that we live on in which that was a good strategy. Right. It doesn't really exist in the multiverse of planets.
I just couldn't get it. I like Lewis a lot. It just wasn't the right thing to do for that fight.
And then we've got our main card. Like, this is the main card, and then we've got our real dessert. We were calling it the entree and the dessert. Colin Godbout making his pro debut against Devon Wagner.
Yeah, boy, I think you are heading up the Colin Godbout fan club.
Hype train, maybe, yeah.
And he said that he wanted to come up and kick it and
that's
do
true.
an episode.
He found us after the show. He wanted to be on. He found us after Conflict was over, and he said he wanted to come up and chill and be on the show. And we were like, yeah, of course. Me and Trevor have talked about having fighters on the show before. It's definitely something that we want to do. Couldn't have picked a better person to start with, and we do start. But yeah, there's a lot of people that I would love to have on here and get kind of their stories about how they got into this and why it matters to them. Because I think that, that's one of the most interesting things about this sport is that you've got to have a fucking good reason to be doing it, to be getting punched in the face. And really, Colin only took one shot, and it cut him open and moused his eye.
Wild how the one elbow he got hit with did that. I mean, it's not wild. Like, it happens, but it's like, hell, like,
pretty much the only real shot of the night.
It was the only shot of the night. And, like, it was such a dominant win for him, but that one shot made it look like he was in a fucking banger of a fight.
Yeah, like, exactly. And, that's how you want to get your pro debut started.
That's a fucking elbow, bro. You're getting hit.
Yeah, you want to get hit with at least an elbow and hit one elbow of your own, so you can get a feel of what it's like. Maybe knee somebody in the head if you can. But yeah, he looked good. Finished with a triangle armbar. Wrestling on display again.
Yeah, his opponent started out hard.
Yeah, Devin definitely brought the fight to him, and also landed that elbow, landed a good shot on the feet too that Colin kind of laughed off, and we were kind of laughing about it. He brought the fight to the ground first, and and Colin kind of got on his back a little bit, and then he creeped over and swept into the guard, and I was like, okay, this guy's got some grappling. Like, I was like, okay, this guy's ready for a grappling match against Colin, and then Colin pulls out the triangle armbar on him, and I just haven't seen that side of him. Devin seemed to be a little upset
about the call, and like we saw him.
I mean, it's one of those things where you got to ask yourself at the end of the day, and Jimmy kind of said the same thing after the fact, but he was like, there's not a lot of defenses that start like this. You can say you're trying to defend and push off, but
you don't. That's not how you. Yeah.
You don't need to start like that. You could start like inside and push out.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different things you can do with your hands that don't look like tapping.
And if you're pulling away, your face is pulled away, and you're like doing that,
right? And screaming while tapping.
I've never heard of noise distraction being a type of armbar defense.
Yes, exactly. And that's kind of what my feelings were after the fight. I was like, man, that's a pretty obvious Brazil tap if I've ever seen one. Even from the Brazil tap. But anyway, Colin Godbout makes it 1-0 as a pro, and I'm sure he'll be back.
Can't wait.
He's fired up. Yeah. He's ready to take another fight. He sounded like so. We'll see how his pro career unfolds. Charelston Powell made his return,
and the quote of the night.
Definitely had the quote of the night. Didn't get fight of the night or submission of the night, but damn if he did not have
the quote of
the most quotable moment of the night. He beat Daniel Gary, of course, and said afterwards on the mic, "God is my everything, let's get drunk." And
when he walked in the bar, he was like, "Yeah, man, like I wasn't lying. Like I love Jesus. I'm here to get drunk." And he just like yelled and walked off from the bar, and I just went, "Okay."
I was like, you got to run for mayor, Charelston, when you're doing all this shit. Like, I mean, I don't understand how you're not already running for mayor. You have such a mayoral look to you, and your name is Charelston, and you're from Charleston. Like, what are you doing, man? Out of Malachi Friedman Gyms. Made it look easy, really. Made it look easy. 145, good fight. Now he's 5-1 as a pro.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? He had a long layoff and he was quote unquote retired
for a while.
He looked great.
Got the itch. Yeah,
looked great. We'll see if we see him again. Who knows? Speaking of guys that we may not see again, Jordan Weeks, Mike Hazard, definitely the other fight of the night.
Yeah. Mike Hazard retired, but that was like the other fight of the night. And Jordan Weeks brought a great, amazing jab in that fight.
Boxing display.
Yeah, Mike Hazard was ready for a kickboxing match. Had great switch knees, had great knees throughout, great body shots. But Jordan Weeks had a masterclass of a jab.
I'll tell you what else he brought to the fight. A chin made of granite.
Yeah.
Mike Hazard was hitting him with some nuclear bombs.
And that shows something like Jordan Weeks' last fight. It was a first round stoppage loss to Muhammad Ali's grandson.
Yeah.
And that guy stopped him in a round.
You're right.
Holy shit, how hard does that guy hit? Because I know Mike Hazard hits. Well, Mike Hazard, did you see the x-ray of his hand?
No, I didn't see the x-ray, but he was walking around the bar.
His hand is broken in half behind the middle finger. Like the entire hand is broken in half. Disgusting. It's
disgusting.
It's disgusting. I'll just say that. But I mean, he literally broke his hand on Jordan Weeks' face. Yeah. In the first round.
Oh no.
Yeah. But he still had but that's Mike Hazard.
Plenty of pop.
But hey, man, like Mike Hazard was landing hard hooks from both hands still. He didn't give a shit. Like he wasn't throwing. Like when I heard that hand landing, you couldn't tell if it was broken or not. It was certainly he had solid knees and kicks all night, and really just kept attacking forward. And Jordan staying behind that jab, and we talked about like him staying behind that jab and literally roll. And it's that phrase "rolling with the punches" comes from boxing, where the jabbers don't get hit the same as like the power punchers
because they're not sitting on anything.
They're not sitting on anything. They're mobile. They're mobile. Yeah. You can literally roll and get hit with it. Like, do you get hit more? Mm-hmm. Yeah. But Jordan is just a tough motherfucker at heart, and so him fighting with that game plan is what kept him in that fight the whole time.
Ali must have just copped him.
Boxing. Yeah, I have a hard time watching fights sometimes when homies are like
get
fighting on bigger
like out.
No, like when I was like bigger fights, I'm like I don't know, I don't like to watch it that much. Yeah,
right, especially when it's like a life-changing fight.
Yeah, I'll like avoid like that fight on like some UFC cards when I have like friends fighting. I'm like I don't know.
When Tony fought in BKFC the first time, I remember it was a crazy back and forth fight. A lot of people didn't think he was even going to make it to that last round with how much damage he was taking. I remember I was watching like,
like watching Taylor Starling fight and bare knuckle. I'm just like, oh my god, dude. Like,
see, the first time I saw her fight, I didn't know her at all, and then I met her. Well, I had met her at Fight For It, but.
Like I've talked to her. I've seen her have a lot.
Couple more
times. She's got so much dog in her. But it's not easy.
Now it's harder to watch her fight, but I became introduced to her knowing that she was already a fucking dog. So it's a little bit easier for that.
It's like Andy Wynn. Like when I corner her, okay, cool. But like when she's fighting, like I have a hard time watching her fight. Like if I'm not there, I'm like, what the fuck?
Because they're not locked. It's different.
It's weird. Coaching, man. Like when I'm coaching, I'm like, all right, we're in it. But like when I'm not, then I'm just like, I can't watch.
Oh man, we didn't even talk about Gabriel.
Oh, we didn't.
We didn't talk about Gabriel. Gabriel Brown, way earlier in the card,
the performance of the fight after the fight. The night after the fight, from what we saw.
I believe he was spotted jumping into the pool. Allegedly jumping into the pool at the Fighter Hotel. But yeah, he smashed out his opponent, made it look easy. I wanted to mention that because it had slipped my mind earlier.
Didn't recognize him with the new improved hairstyle.
I definitely think it was salon quality Gabriel that we saw there. Yeah. Like he had a fresh cut, looked like a completely different man.
Oh yeah,
well like a man actually.
Yeah,
he looked like a boy.
I forget how young he is.
He is he's growing up. But yeah, Mike Hazard, Jordan Weeks, crazy good fight, and one of those fights that just makes you grateful to be a combat sports fan. Like you're just like, man, this is a special thing.
And I love the moment they had after that fight where like they just both sat down, arms over his back, just going like, that was rough. But
for both of us. Yeah, but we did that shit. Followed by the main event of the evening, Joel Maddock from Revolution Martial Arts taking on Colby Wall. And
man, there were two L's in that fight. There was Kobe L in that, and then there was how you handled the news. Of Joel's retirement. I've never you just melted into your chair, and I think I just lost my co-host here. But yeah, you were like his retirement speech. But that's what a talented guy. But what a way to ride off from the sunset. You know, he said he has a higher calling, a higher purpose, and I guess it's not dishing out guillotines in a cage anymore.
Yeah, well, I mean, me and my coach Cody talked about this, and Cody's also got a lot of guillotine stuff going on, and he remembers that he became aware of Joel when Joel was coming in while he was kind of ending his career, and he was like, this guy's carrying on the MMA guillotine torch, and so Cody was equally devastated when he found out that Joel retired. But yeah, he's only 26. He's a very, very good prospect. 5-0 as a pro with
7-0 record.
All 5-0 as a pro after that was he had 6-0 at Emmy. And all 5 of his pro all 5 of his pro wins are submissions, and only one of them is not a guillotine. He got a rear naked choke at Showcase MMA 22 back in October, but outside of that, it's been all guillotines. Probably my favorite move in jiu-jitsu. So definitely I take note of people when they come along who are specialists in it. And from the outset of this fight, he was looking to control Kobe's head and create opportunities for guillotines or for other parts of his game that run off.
If you attack the neck, the person has to defend the neck, but that also opens up the. It's funny, like he just did that. He just put out these little attempts, and Kobe had to defend because he just couldn't give it up.
Right.
And he just set up the chain. He was like, once you defend here, I can slide in, and then he just set it to a guillotine.
It was beautiful.
It was beautiful.
Beautiful jiu-jitsu.
I was watching. I'm just like, I just need to shut up because I'm just watching it. It's so perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of those guys that you watch and you're like, he's ready. He's ready for the show.
Yeah,
but Bellator, UFC,
but
whatever.
Decides to ride off into the sunset.
Man, unbelievable. And you were right about him being kind of comparable on that same trajectory to Joe Solecki, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
He was on that trajectory, man, and it sucks to not know what if, but like you said, higher purpose, higher calling. There are better things in life than beating people up. For a lot of people.
Yeah, that's true. But hey, man, like, what a career!
I'll tell you this. I was talking to Jared after the fight. We were talking to him, and he said that Joel left and didn't even take his money.
Yeah,
just left and had just forgotten all about it. Wasn't even thinking about it. You can tell this
man was already ready for what was next.
You could tell that it meant a lot to him. He was very emotional on the mic, but to do that after the speech and everything means that it was very much weighing heavily.
Yeah, your mind's going fresh air
a billion miles a minute.
Yeah.
You're like, damn, I just need to get out of here. Yeah. And you just don't even get paid. And Jared's got to Venmo you after the fact.
Well, I think what it was is that he just finished up and he seems like such a blue collar kind of guy. Like he knew the job was done.
Yeah.
He was like, that was it. I think he just went in that locker room, packed up his bag,
went
outside,
later.
took that breath of air, just went, oh, that air makes sense. And then that was it.
Yeah.
And you know what? Hey, good for him.
Good for him. Congratulations on your retirement, Joel. I hope it sticks. A lot of guys come back, and by the time they come back,
they don't have that window. It's not the same window. Yeah.
26 is a great time to be 5-0, but maybe we'll see you whatever you're doing next. Whatever. I mean, clearly this guy's very talented in jiu-jitsu. That's not the same thing as fighting. Maybe there's a plan there. Maybe there's something else going on.
Yeah,
who knows? I'm looking forward to whatever's next for him. But overall, I would say Conflict 50 was an amazing show. Incredible show. Everything down to having the ring card girls be fighters that had previously fought on Conflict. Little touches that Jared does to make the show special. Bring back Kobe Wall,
the most dangerous ring card girls.
Yeah. Some of the ring card girls probably could have beat up some of the male fighters on the card.
Yeah, without a doubt.
But and that was the first time and probably the last time ever I'll see a ring card girl corner a fight. Was that Amy Peduto fight?
Yeah, that was cool.
In the corner. Super cool. But just very memorable for their 50th show, and just Jared is such a good promoter for doing these little tiny touches to make the show special, not just for the people who have been to the shows, but also to the people who are coming to the first time.
Right.
So great stuff there in Charleston, and I cannot wait to go back. Apparently August is the tentative date for the next Conflict show in Charleston. Who knows if we'll see you before then, Conflict. I know that there's some other stuff that's in the works, but Jorge Masvidal got fucking creamed by Colby Covington.
Yeah, from what I heard, but I didn't even go back and really watch any highlights of that. I was like, I think I'm done with fighting for the day after Conflict. We went to that Max Tower, and I went, this is nice. I enjoyed the people watching. I had a cider. It felt good.
You're a cider guy now. That's something that we learned about you in
I gotta be a cider. But I haven't had any type of alcohol in 8 months.
True.
The thing, and then I was like, sick. If I can have one of these, I'm having this.
Now I'm a cider guy.
Now I'm a cider guy. Man, I gotta grow a pencil thin mustache with some curly stuff on the end of it. I gotta wear a sillier hat now. I don't know.
I know you got IK up next weekend.
Yeah.
Any other fights on the horizon that you're really looking forward to?
Let's see. There's IK I got coming up. April 9th is the next fight for it. We got some kickboxers and MMA fights coming up on that one.
Yeah, you're going to be Coach Trevor on that card.
Going to be Coach Trevor on that one.
Commentating.
Looks like I'll have 2 people on combat jiu-jitsu, 2 people in kickboxing, and 2 people in MMA, one of them being a title fight.
One of them being your girlfriend also.
And one of them being my girlfriend also.
Yep, should be. I'm very much looking forward to the fight for it.
It's not stressful. Like I have a good team.
Now we'll definitely talk about that on the podcast.
Oh yeah,
pre-Fight For It podcast. We'll get your feelings.
Let's get Seth
and we'll get Talia here.
Oh hell yeah!
Because we'll just why not? She
not?
Lives here.
Yeah,
we can just be like Talia, come in here.
We're gonna get Seth up here.
Maybe he's in Fayetteville, right?
Somewhere in between, maybe.
Somewhere, maybe not too far from there, but either way. I'd love to have Seth on for the pre-fight for
What other fights are coming up?
Toro Cup at the end of April. I'm doing that one.
Yeah.
May, who knows? But, I mean, as far as big UFC fights, I think we still are a few weeks out from Kamzat versus Burns or anything very, very exciting.
And then, wait, isn't May 7th is the Chandler... No,
Gaethje Olivier or Gaethje
Oliveira. Yeah. Chucky Olives.
Yeah, so I mean, not a lot going on right now in the world of MMA. It seems like they kind of blew their load with that whole Colby versus Jorge thing, and it wasn't even a great card from what I hear.
It wasn't even a great load.
It wasn't even a great load. So what are you gonna do? Santos versus Ankalaev, Volkov versus Absalom.
Like that looks like that card's been on at 1 p.m. You know what I'm looking forward to is a day of like cleaning the house with some fights on in the background and breaking in the new air fryer.
That's what that sounds like.
That's what that fight card sounds like, man. Yeah.
Blades versus Dukakis isn't until March 26th. So yeah, guys, we're actually gonna probably take a break next week. So there'll be no show next week. I'll be in Texas, and Trevor will be preparing for the IKF. So I feel like we could just come back together after the IKF, talk about some of the results, and just go over some other stuff. Just see what MMA news arises until then. But until then, thanks so much for joining us for the Conflict 50 post show on the 10-8 Fightcast, and continue to support us by liking this video, subscribing, or if you're listening on a podcast app, you could give us a review on Spotify or Apple especially. Those really, really help with exposure. Enjoy the fights and yourselves. We'll see you next time.